Coming to you live from Stiver Island, where a 6.0 earthquake has just occurred. Final analysis shows that this island is fucked.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit! Ah! Right on the doorsill.
Today I'm going to be looking at Disaster Report for the PS2. This copy of the game came to me from my bro over at C. William G. TV. Thanks, man. Disaster Report is a survival puzzle game reminiscent of the early Resident Evil games. You play as Keith Helm, who is an aspiring reporter who's just moved to Stiver Island. Like Leon Kennedy in Resident Evil 2, it's his first day on the job and shit got real. Somehow they fucked up his job description in the game manual, though. On one page, they erroneously and kind of ironically say he's an editor, but he's obviously just a reporter. I guess Disaster Report's editor must have had the day off. The manual does give a good description of the backstory that leads up to the game. You'll be able to figure most of this out while you're playing it, but they probably should have included this government and construction premise in the introduction cutscenes. Essentially, the government for an unnamed country decided they wanted to build an island out in the ocean to help solve overcrowding due to population expansion. To prove their faith in the avant-garde construction methods that they used, they moved part of their capital city to this island. While Keith is on his way to his first day of work, a massive earthquake hits the island and destroys the bridge that he's on, thus forcing you into a survival situation. This premise works very well because major disasters are a very real part of life. In 2004, the year after this game was released in the US, a devastating earthquake in the Indian Ocean caused massive tsunamis that killed almost 230,000 people across Africa, Asia, and Indonesia. The very real man versus nature game aspects are further enhanced with elements of conspiracy. This type of plot lends itself well to a puzzle-style game where you have a limited amount of inventory space and you have to make decisions about what to leave behind or what items to build out of other things. Combining items is helpful because it frees up some space, but shit, I never have room for these first aid kits. Occasionally you'll get really lucky and you will find a backpack that'll let you carry more items. Inventory space is a common problem in these kinds of games. Disaster Report uses a 3D Tetris grid, sort of like Resident Evil 4's suitcase as its way to store items. It can get frustrating at times, but it also forces you to make some very real decisions about what you're going to keep and take with you and what you're going to leave behind. Like, why do I need so many of these coat hangers? I only used them once, so why did it give me so many of them? The only real problem with Disaster Report is that discarded items are deleted from the game. Resident Evil 0 probably did this the best, where if you decided to get rid of something, it stayed on the ground and you could come back to it later if you changed your mind. In the Fallout games, you could store items just about wherever you wanted and come back to them. But in Disaster Report, you have to learn to live with that decision. In terms of the controls, this game feels like an interesting hybrid of Resident Evil and Zelda Ocarina of Time. The camera is very similar to the Z-targeting system. The main difference is that you aren't able to strafe left or right while you're holding down the camera button. Instead, the camera just continuously turns around you. It does feel a little rough at times, but these moments are few and far between. I generally find it passing my minimum standards. If there is somewhere that I want to look, the camera can also be positioned with minimal frustration. Sometimes the game will give predetermined camera angles, the way Zelda did inside buildings. Maybe it's just me, but when a game camera locks into one of these positions, I have a little voice in my head that won't leave me alone. Hey, Dingo! You can't leave that corner unchecked. What if there's a map on that wall? Or maybe there's a compass hidden over in the corner? Or what if all of this is just a giant sitcom and back there's a live studio audience just behind that camera watching you the entire time? Oh, man, that's the kind of shit that'll keep you up at night. Fortunately, there's a first-person view camera that'll allow you to check those hard-to-see areas. Yep, just a wall. Whew. There are some times when the cinematic moments could have used some work, though. Here I know that this giant globe that looks like they ripped it off the Daily Planet is supposed to be falling, but because of where I was when it triggered the cutscene, I can't see it. Even on this second playthrough, there's a lamppost spoiling the moment. I really hated the way that Resident Evil 6 tried to resolve these moments by forcing the camera to look at things that you don't want them to. Obviously, I want to look where I'm running. I don't give a shit about the giant monster. Even though it was a little clunky, personally I found the way that the Fable games handle these moments to be pretty effective. A simple prompt on screen that gives a good view of the event is all that's really needed. Besides the camera, there are other control elements that remind me of the Zelda games too. The jumping and grabbing mechanics are pretty much identical. Come on, Link, you can make it!
Watch out!
Alright, time to find that princess. Where this game's mechanics differ from Zelda is that Disaster Report is less action-oriented. Interacting with the environment often involves going to your menu screen and selecting the right item to use, more like the Resident Evil games. This is a common element in those older puzzle games as well as some of the RPGs. At least these doors stay open when you unlock them. Usually these puzzle aspects work really well, but sometimes it's less obvious what you need to do. Okay, I know I need the shattered wood to build a raft, so fucking pick it up. The hell, man? Oh, I need to use the crowbar first. Well, don't I feel like a jackass. Disaster Report did a good job with their map screen, though. Routinely, Keith and the other survivors will place little sticky notes on the map to remind you of where to go or what you've already done. It even marks off obstructed routes so you know not to go there again. Another important note on the map are the water spigots found throughout the game. To further immerse you in the survival world, Keith has this thirst gauge labeled as QP. You can restore it by drinking water, which is carried in bottles and found at these spigots. I'm not really sure if I like this feature or not. It does add another element to the game, which I really enjoy, but it's also annoying as hell at times, slowing you down. The Man vs. Wild game used this idea, and it was kind of funny making Bear Grylls drink his own piss out of a snakeskin. But I really hope I never have to mention that game again. It is the only game that I know of with an adventure meter, in case you never knew how much adventure you were having. And I'm not making that shit up, that's what it's called. The adventure meter. In Disaster Report, you might feel the need to hoard water bottles your first time playing through, but pure water sources aren't hard to come by, so a single water bottle can often be enough. Well, maybe you might want a second one for your survival partner. If you want to get one of the true endings, you have to make sure to give your partner some water from time to time. The only problem with this is that they never tell you when they're thirsty, and you have to figure this feature out by yourself by noticing the Give tab in the already busy inventory screen. Oh, man. Fuck, I was thirsty. My QP was almost at 0. Well, Karen, do you want some? Is that a no? You know what, Karen? Fuck you! To keep the game interactive, you will meet a few other survivors along the way. Very early, you'll meet Karen Morris. She does have some relevance to the larger story at play. If I had to sum up Karen in one word, though, moe. She's shy, sensitive, and always needs your help. I'm not sure why, but the developers really tried to make her look dumb as hell. All kinds of little things, like she doesn't know what day it is, or she can't remember where she lives.
I think my house is that way.
Or she's never even seen a crowbar before? Really? I guess her major isn't in mechanical engineering. Normally a blonde joke would fit in here really nicely, but as it turns out, Keith and Karen aren't really blonde. The Japanese version of this game had them with dark hair. They only turned them blonde to make them seem more American in the US release. I've mentioned this before in other games, like Alicia Dragoon and Demon Sword, but they were older games and it didn't work very well. For what it is, they did a good job of covertly making this game have an appeal to a wide audience. The non-specific government in the game helps add to this too. I wouldn't have guessed that this game was made in Japan if it wasn't for the occasional polite bow, or taking off your shoes when you enter a house, or maybe the occasional use of common Japanese sayings.
Do your best.
Ganbatte! Since disasters affect everyone across the globe, this approach felt seamless where it otherwise may not have worked. So I gotta say, I'm impressed they pulled it off. While Karen does come across as very ditzy, the moe elements do work as intended. In my later playthroughs, I really felt like a dick for choosing to split up with Karen, just so I could see the other half of the game.
Guess I'll see you around, maybe.
I'm sorry, Karen, it's nothing personal. To my surprise, I ended up liking Kelly Austin's character a lot more. Even though she's just a teenager, her character's a lot less cliche and seems more self-sufficient than Karen. But Kelly can't carry a dog upside down in her backpack. This game includes a relationship chart that shows you how the characters know each other, but it seems like they fucked up these arrows. Since we already know that Keith rescued Karen, and that's what makes her trust Keith, wouldn't that insinuate from these arrows that Karen is Terry Stiver's uncle and that he is her niece? That doesn't make any damn sense. In terms of the graphics, this game feels very unpolished. It was early in the PS2's life, but it easily falls below the PlayStation's capabilities. Even Red Ninja managed to look good superficially. Characters' mouths don't move when they're talking, and they all have blank faces, calm as Hindu cows. But I know this because Tyler knows this. It's kind of eerie how they're all expressionless, and when they aren't, it's hilarious. That's rich. One more time. Fucking hey, that's awesome. Even though the visuals aren't quite up to snuff, it's still fun to explore the world. There are plenty of compasses hidden around for you to find. They don't really do anything other than change the graphic in the corner, but it gives you something extra to do. Oh, they just couldn't resist a big cock joke, could they? Don't worry, they've got one for the ladies, too. You can also collect a variety of items to combine into other things, although this feature could have been used better. I even found that these illumination tools weren't really necessary when the brightness was high on my TV. This might be one of the best examples of how to implement darkness in a game. I was always able to see what I was doing, even in dark environments. That said, this game did take the lazy approach to brightness adjust, giving you one of those screens that just tells you to adjust your TV. I also didn't see a way to turn off flashlights unless you put them back in your inventory. What happened to the on-off switch? The story to this game is okay, but they could have spent more time developing it. It isn't until pretty late in the game when you start to get a clearer picture of what's going on, specifically when you spy on Albert, who looks like he's talking to someone over a Pokedex. I guess Professor Oak must be involved with this conspiracy too, I don't know. A few moments in the game that included files and finding keys were kind of fun, so it could have been expanded on more. For the most part, Disaster Report relies on many nerve-wracking, destructive moments that usually follow aftershocks. The dramatic events made me feel like I was on a ride at Universal Studios. My favorite part about these moments is that there is no use of QuickTime events. Fuck yes. Outside of games like Dragon's Lair or Time Gal, I can't fucking stand QTE. Resident Evil 6 fucked this up so bad, I hope it's just a corporate policy that if anyone mentions QuickTime event when you're designing a game, you get fucking fired. Final Fantasy XIII-2 is the only modern game that I've played that's used QuickTime events effectively. They give you a bonus rather than instantly fucking killing you. I really hope that this fad goes away soon. The fact that Disaster Report built an entire game like this without the use of QTE shows that it can be done just fine. That said, it isn't always clear where you need to go due to the lack of shadows from falling debris, and often, where you stand when one of these moments is initiated can determine whether you survive or not. They also messed up this helicopter scene pretty bad. It just goes right from a cutscene to you getting rocket shot at you, and it doesn't make it clear when the cutscene ends and the playtime starts. This is generally handled subtly. Here, let me show you what they should have done. Notice the cinematic aspect ratio to let you know you're watching a cutscene, and then see the transition to let you know it's over. That seriously took me only 3 minutes to edit after the fact. Or a less subtle technique might have been this. Run, asshole, run! This isn't a movie anymore! These small mistakes will cause you to die when you don't deserve it, and they could have been prevented with some simple on-screen instructions. Daddy! And yes, there's a big distinction between on-screen instructions and QuickTime events. The goons in this game are hilarious too. Oh look, cardboard box, Nikolai, what do we do? Let's use explosion. Apparently FPS Russia was with these guys. Look at this guy sinking to his death as a building collapses and he's still shooting at you as he dies. As always, have a nice day. This game does have replay value because there are different paths to take that will show you very different parts of the story, but it's really hard to get a good ranking, even with a short time or few deaths. There are also alternate endings depending on the choices you make. This game will let you make some really cruel decisions, like abandoning your fellow survivors in exchange for self-rescue. You can even lie to the rescue teams and leave your friends to die. Even choosing this just to see the ending, they make you feel pretty low. Kelly's in the background and your head's between your knees. What an asshole. With the exception of these credit sequences, this game had virtually no music in it. I'm not sure if it's because they were going for realism or not, but that may push away some players. I didn't find it too big of a problem myself, though.
All things considered, this game is above average. If you're already into the survival, puzzle-type game, then give this one a shot. If you're not into the genre yet, then I don't recommend this be your first experience with it. On that note, I gotta go find some more water.